Once, in a small village tucked between the hills and forest, lived a girl named Aneo. She was no taller than a yam stalk and had eyes the color of midnight. The villagers often whispered about her, "That girl who speaks to the wind," they said. "The one who walks with shadows." Aneo lived with her grandmother, Mama Yuzo, who had raised her since she was a baby. Her parents had vanished during a storm that had swallowed half the forest. They were never found, only mourned. Since then, Aneo had become quiet, observant, and drawn to the woods that brushed the village's edge. Mama Yuzo always warned her, "The forest is older than our stories. It remembers. Be careful what you wake." But Aneo loved the forest. It was the only place where she felt hard. One evening, when the sky was painted in orange and purple and the wind carried the scent of wet earth, Aneo heard a strange sound, like thunder but softer, almost like a heavy heartbeat. She followed it. Deeper and deeper into the woods, beyond the paths marked by hunters and beyond the whispering bamboo grove, until she reached a clearing lit by fireflies and moonlight, and there stood a giant dot. He was taller than any tree Aneo had seen, with skin like weathered bark and eyes as gentle as rain. He had antlers like branches and a body shaped like a man but larger, slower, and somehow, sad. Aneo did not run. The giant blinked slowly and lowered himself to the ground. His voice, when it came, was not through words, but through feeling, a vibration inside her chest. "You are not afraid?" the giant asked, though his mouth never moved. "No," Aneo said. "Are you?" He chuckled, a sound like the wind rustling through the tallest trees. "Sometimes." And so began the strangest friendship the forest had ever seen. She learned his name was Okoto, which meant stillness. He was one of the guardians, ancient beings born of the earth itself, tasked with protecting the balance between man and nature. But as men grew hungrier, cutting trees, hunting without need, polluting the rivers, his brothers had disappeared, one by one. Now, Okoto was the last. Aneo listened as he spoke of forgotten seasons, of talking rivers and laughing trees, of animals that could once speak the names of the stars. "Will you die too?" Aneo asked one day. "I will sleep," he said. "And when I sleep, the forest will forget how to breathe." They arrived in loud trucks, with saws that screamed and smoke that stormed the air. They held papers and permits and promises. "We are bringing development," they told the village elders. "Roads. Industry. Jobs." The villagers, worn from years of poverty, hesitated. Some protested. Most stayed quiet, but Aneo knew what was coming. She ran to Okoto, her eyes wide with fear. "They are going to cut down your trees. They are going to build through your home." Okoto bowed his head. "I cannot fight them. Not alone." "Then you won't be alone," she said. They crept into the forest with stones, sticks, and stories. They painted trees with red dye, lit candles, and sang the songs their grandmothers had taught them. The forest answered, roots shifted. Wind howled. Owls cried warnings. The men in boots returned the next morning to find bulldozers wrapped in vines, tires flattened, and trees standing where no trees had been the night before. Still, they pushed forward. One of them shouted, "This is just superstition. We have machines." They entered the clearing with chainsaws, and Okoto stood. Birds flew in panicked swarms. The men turned and saw the gentle giant rise from the ground, his shoulders heavy with moss and sorrow, his eyes filled with ancient grief. One man raised a gun. Aneo stepped in front of the giant, arms spread wide. "He is not your enemy," she shouted. "But if you hurt him, the forest will never forgive you." The man hesitated, the chainsaw dropped, and in that silence, something changed. They asked the government to hold the project. Instead of a factory, they built a forest sanctuary. Visitors came from far places to see the sacred woods where the girl and the giant had once stood. Schools brought children to learn about nature, balance, and protection. Okoto still lived in the clearing, though he rarely rose anymore. He was becoming part of the forest, his body growing still, his roots reaching deep. But sometimes, when the wind blew just right, you could hear his laugh in the trees. And Aneo, she became a storyteller. She traveled from village to village, reminding people of what they once knew, that the earth speaks, that kindness is strength, and that sometimes, the gentlest hearts are the most powerful of all.